My therapist says writing things down can take the edge off nightmares, that naming something takes away its power. But this thing, what happened to me, it is not just a bad dream. It was a door that opened, and I am scared it might open again. It started as a dream, and I knew it was a dream. That is what made it worse. Lucid dreams are supposed to give you control, but not this one. In this dream, I was back in my childhood bedroom, the one with the old wooden closet across from my bed. That door was closed, but something evil pressed against it from the other side. I felt it watching me. I knew it wanted me to look, to acknowledge it. I tried, I really did. I tried to force my eyes toward the door, but every time I moved my gaze in that direction, my head would twist away like it belonged to someone else. I could not move it. I could not face it. And no matter how much I tried to convince myself that it was only a dream, the fear kept growing. It pressed in on my chest like weight, like heat. Then I woke up. At least I thought I did. I sat there for a moment in the darkness, drenched in sweat, breathing hard, relief flooding through me like warm light. The dream was over. That is what I told myself, until I realized I could not move. My arms, my legs, my chest, frozen in place like I had been nailed to the mattress. The only part of me I could move were my eyes, and even they felt like they were being pulled down by invisible fingers. The room was silent, but from the closet came something worse than noise. It was laughter. Not normal laughter, not even demonic. It was deeper. It moved through the air like a sickness, thick and wet. Like blood or smoke, it filled my head without a sound. It made me want to vomit. My whole body buzzed with it, like it was crawling under my skin. Then it threw something at me. I did not hear it move. I did not see a shape, but something came flying out of that closet and landed on my chest. Heavy, wet, solid. I felt it before I saw it. My eyes rolled down as far as they could, and I saw it. A human head, lying face up, eyes wide open, mouth frozen mid-scream, and I recognized her. Her name was Laura. We went to high school together. She was quiet but always kind. I had not seen her in years, and now her severed head was lying on my chest like a gift, like a message. That was when I broke. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. Just grunts, moans, animal noises. I strained with everything I had, tried to rock my body, tried to roll the head off me, but nothing moved. My lungs burned, my muscles trembled. I was shaking inside a prison of my own skin, and all the while that laughter continued, soaking me in waves, pouring through my ears and mouth and eyes. It felt like it would never end. Then suddenly it stopped, like a switch had been flipped, and just like that I woke up for real. I sat up so fast the room spun. The sheets were soaked. My skin was freezing. The closet door was shut. No head on my chest. No sound in the room except my own gasping breath. But the fear remained. For weeks I could not sleep. When I did, I was afraid to wake, because I did not trust the difference anymore. I would sit in bed staring at the closet door, waiting for it to move. I did not tell anyone. How could I? I had never even heard of sleep paralysis. I thought I was going insane. Eventually I found out that other people go through things like this. They see shadows, feel pressure, hear voices. They call it night terrors, hypnagogic hallucinations. The science helps. For a while, but it does not explain the worst part. It does not explain the head. No one else ever talks about something being thrown, or recognizing the face of someone real, someone they once knew. That part stuck with me like a nail in my chest. Weeks later, I looked Laura up online. I do not know why. Maybe I needed to remind myself she was fine, that it had all been a trick of the mind. But she was not fine. She was missing. Had been for days, vanished during a hiking trip. No signs, no remains. Just gone. The timeline did not make sense. She disappeared before I had the dream. That is what made everything so much worse. I had not even thought of her in years. So how did my brain conjure that face with such awful detail, that expression, that weight? And what if it was not a dream at all? What if it was something else? Now I double-check every closet before I sleep. I bolt the doors shut. I sleep facing them. I leave the lights on. Because something was in that closet. Something that laughed without sound. Something that could reach into my dreams and throw death at me. And I am not sure it ever left. If you are listening to this, if you have ever felt frozen in your own bed, if you have ever seen a shadow move behind a door that should not open, I am telling you now, some dreams are not dreams. Some closets are not empty. And some things are waiting for you to look at them. So whatever you do, do not look away. And if you ever wake up and find that you still cannot move, and the closet is open, and something is laughing but you cannot hear it, then pray. Pray it only wants to watch. Because once it chooses you, it does not stop. Not when you wake. Not ever. Have you ever been so certain you were alone that the sudden sound of a voice felt like a knife at your throat? What if that voice was not a dream at all, but a warning that something inhuman was already in the room with you? It happened in the small rental house my girlfriend and I shared on the edge of town, a quiet street lit by a single flickering lamp, the kind that buzzes all night like an insect trapped between glass. Our bedroom sat in the back, facing an overgrown garden, whose bamboo stalks scraped the windows whenever the wind picked up. We kept the curtains closed because the shadows outside looked too much like figures pacing the grass. That night began like any other hot August air pressing through the screen, cicadas buzzing in the hedges. I fell asleep around midnight, the ceiling fan wobbling overhead, its loose screw tapping with every spin. My girlfriend lay beside me, her hair spread on the pillow, her phone still glowing faintly where she had dropped it after scrolling herself into drowsiness. Nothing about the room felt sinister then. The walls were painted a calm pastel, cheap IKEA dresser near the door, a stack of unfolded laundry on a chair. Ordinary. Safe. The sort of place where nightmares should feel embarrassed to show up. The dream that pulled me under did not feel ordinary. I was standing on a metal platform in a dark hangar, air humming with batteries or generators. A row of bright surgical lamps hung far above, swaying as if on invisible water. Somewhere out in the gloom, shapes moved, tall and spindly, as if they had too many joints in each limb. I remember the hiss of compressed gas. I remember a cold wind that smelled like hospitals, bleach over something rotten. When I tried to walk, I slid instead, as though gravity shifted in little jerks, yanking me forward, then sideways. I told myself I was dreaming, but no matter how many times I whispered that thought, the fear only sharpened. A needle of light cut across the air and settled on my face. Then a hand, pale as wax, rose from below the platform and pointed straight at me. Its fingers were terribly long, segmented, insect-like. I wanted to scream, to lunge, to fight, but the dream wrenched me upward at impossible speed and flung me backward into blackness. The last thing I heard inside that place was a voice, metallic and deep, barking a command I did not understand. I woke with a violent jerk, or rather I thought I woke. The red glow of the digital clock burned into my vision, 3:59, 1 minute before the hour would flip. My skin felt slick, the sheet glued to my chest. I tried to roll onto my side so I could bury my face against my girlfriend's shoulder and steal her calm breathing for comfort. My mind gave the order, but my body lay there unmoved, unmoving. It felt like I had been poured into wet cement. That was when the voice came. A man's voice, close inside the room, rough with alarm, shouting words I will never forget. "Watch out, he is awake." In that instant, my vision tunneled. I could see the ceiling above and a slice of wall beyond the bed, but the edges darkened, like someone adjusting the aperture of a camera. My pulse slammed against my ears. I tried to ask who was there. I tried to shout, "Get out." Not a sound left my throat. Pressure hit my chest, sudden and total, as though an invisible slab had been dropped from a height. My ribs squeaked. My lungs fluttered like trapped birds. Then the room tilted. The bed vanished beneath me, replaced by cold stainless steel. Leather straps cinched themselves around my wrists, my ankles, my forehead. Overhead, lights ignited, white and blinding, points that drilled straight into my skull. I sensed vast volume above, a cavernous ceiling where chains and black cables dangled like vines. The metal door slammed. You know that heavy, echoing clang you hear in prison movies, the kind that tells you mercy has left the building? Multiply that by 10 and you might feel the shock wave that rolled through me. Then came silence. Not ordinary silence, but a vacuum, as if all sound had been sucked away. I could not even hear my own heart. Time stretched until minutes felt like hours. My skin tingled and burned wherever the straps pressed. I thought of dentists because as a kid I hated that chair, the smell of latex gloves and antiseptic. This chair felt like its monstrous parent, big enough to swallow me whole. Suddenly I felt warmth against my ear, a living presence, breathing slow and curious. Breath that smelled of ozone and old pennies. I tried to turn my head to see the owner of that breath, but the strap bit into my temple. When nothing happened, I wondered if they were deciding what piece of me to cut first. Then everything snapped back. I was in my own bed again. Same ceiling. Same clock, now glowing 4:00. Beside me, my girlfriend breathed soft and steady. Relief should have come, but it did not. The weight still crushed my chest. I still could not move. The room now felt smaller, like the walls had crept inward to watch me struggle. I focused on my girlfriend's back. Her hair drifted with each exhale. If I could just nudge her, even a fraction, she might wake and break the spell. My fingers tingled with effort, but refused to lift. I tried to inch my foot under the sheet to tap her ankle. Still nothing. Panic built on panic. I imagined myself trapped forever, muscles locked until dawn, while some watcher in the corner waited for me to break. Images flashed behind my eyes, quick frames of a scalpel poised above skin, of a needle sliding like a silver worm, of gray faces bending to observe. And beneath it all a certainty grew, thick and immovable. They had taken me. They had been in this room. They had lifted me out, done whatever they wanted, and when I stirred, a voice shouted the alarm. They threw me back like a returned package, and hoped I would not remember. Sensation crept into my toes first, prickles of static. Then my calves, my thighs, my stomach. The pressure eased. I gulped air, rolled to my side, and finally shot up like I had been launched. I shook my girlfriend by the shoulder. She groaned, mumbled my name, asked what was wrong. I stammered, words tumbling over one another, but she only frowned and told me to sleep. We would talk when the sun was up. I looked at the clock again, fingers trembling. 4:04. The night felt too dense to breathe, so I got up. I left our room, each floorboard creaking under my bare feet. The hall smelled different somehow, as if strange air had leaked from a crack in reality. Downstairs I flicked on the kitchen light, the bulb buzzing sullenly. I poured a glass of orange juice, spilled half of it because my hands shook so badly. The glass left wet rings on the counter. Outside, the garden was a charcoal painting. Dim shapes of shrubs, the black silhouette of the fence, the moon smothered by clouds. I slid the patio door open and stepped into the night. The grass was cool and damp against my soles. Somewhere a moth battered itself against the porch light. I lit a cigarette and watched the smoke curl upward, hoping the nicotine would stitch my nerves back together. The world felt different. The usual distant hum of highway traffic had vanished. No cars passed on the road beyond the hedge. Even the insects had fallen silent, as though the entire neighborhood was holding its breath. I could not shake the idea that a craft hovered invisibly overhead, waiting to see if I would collapse or confess. Back inside, I grabbed my tablet, sat at the kitchen table, screen casting a pale glow. I typed alien abduction awake in bed into a search bar. Hundreds of results bloomed. Accounts that matched mine too closely. Descriptions of figures at the bedside, of metallic rooms, of voices that barked orders. But woven between those pages was a medical phrase I had never encountered. Sleep paralysis. I clicked. I read. Brain misfires between REM and wakefulness. Hallucinations. Sensations of pressure. The illusion of an intruder. Explanations so tidy they felt staged. My terror dipped, almost smiled, then flared again with new suspicion. What if this neat diagnosis was the perfect disguise? A fabrication seeded in human science, so that when memories leaked through, we would tuck them under the rug ourselves. I closed the browser, image of the gray hand still pulsing behind my eyes. I returned to bed, slipped under the sheet as gently as possible. My girlfriend murmured, but did not wake. I stared at the ceiling till dawn painted weak lines across the room. Every time I blinked, the voice replayed, "Watch out, he is awake." Days passed. I read more. I told friends, half laughing, that I had the weirdest dream. They laughed back, offered rational advice, said, "Get more sleep." Night after night, I lay awake listening. Once I thought I heard footsteps in the attic, soft, deliberate. Another time I woke to see the door of the wardrobe cracked open, though I swear I had closed it. Each morning I checked my skin for marks. There were none, except a faint bruise on my bicep shaped suspiciously like a fingerprint. I began keeping a journal. Every strange sound, every flash image recorded. I drew the chair from memory. I sketched the light, the hand, the door. Sometimes I wondered if the act of writing invited them back. Sometimes the air in the room would tighten, and I would stop my pen and listen, heart stumbling. But nothing approached. Not yet. One evening I watched a documentary on supposed abductees. A man with tired eyes said the aliens erased memories with a bright flash. A woman described hearing a metallic clang before waking in her bed. Another showed a scar shaped like 3 perfect circles in a line. I noticed how the interviewer smiled politely, leaning toward disbelief. I wondered if skepticism was another layer of their camouflage. Still, doubt is a stubborn beast. Logic whispered that my brain had misfired during a dream, locked my muscles, invented the voice and the chair and the door slam. Logic said that if I ignored the fear, it would fade. But fear whispered louder. Fear said the chair was real, the slam was real, and they would come again as soon as I believed they were gone. The house began to feel like a stage set. The humming streetlight outside pulsed like a landing beacon. The bamboo against the window scraped in patterns, too deliberate to be wind. Shadows in the hall overlapped in ways that suggested tall bodies pausing to watch me pass. A month after the first event, I woke at 3:12, heart hammering. I could move but barely. The room was cold unseasonably. My breath steamed. I heard a faint electrical crackle, like the static that builds when you peel a sweater. It seemed to come from everywhere. I sat up, forcing my limbs through syrup. My girlfriend slept on, unaware. Then I saw a glow, dull and shifting, under the bedroom door, as though a flashlight passed slowly along the hall carpet. I wanted to call out, but part of me was sure that would be the invitation they needed. I stayed still, listening to the static climb higher, a faint whine entering the pitch. The glow paused at the threshold. For 10 long seconds nothing moved. Then the light blinked out. The static cut. Warm air flooded the room as if a window had been closed. In the morning I found no sign in the hall, no footprints, no scorch marks. But the clock downstairs on the microwave had reset, blinking 12 over and over, a thing that happened only when power surged or failed. My phone still showed the correct time, only that one clock had forgotten the night. Was that proof? Was it enough? I do not know. I only know that every odd glitch now feels loaded. A flicker in the kitchen bulb stabs me with adrenaline. A car alarm 2 streets away sounds like a warning, meant for me alone. I am writing this because tonight the air feels heavy again. The bamboo is perfectly still, though no wind blows. The streetlight flickers faster. My girlfriend is out of town visiting family, so the bed is emptier, wider, more exposed. I keep thinking about that voice, the urgency in it, the command to others, unseen. Watch out, he is awake. As if the one rule of their work is secrecy, and my consciousness is a breach. A small part of me hopes it really was sleep paralysis, that my brain glitched once and will not repeat. But hope feels thin when the shadows keep rearranging themselves. So I leave you with this. If one night you find yourself frozen under invisible weight, if you hear strange machinery in the walls and feel cold bands around your wrists, do not assume it is just a misfire in your mind. It might be. But it might be something else entirely. And if a voice warns the others that you are awake, know that in that moment you have slipped through a crack where science and nightmare meet. Will they let you remember, or will they send you back, tuck you under familiar sheets, and trust that you will find the same convenient word I did? Sleep paralysis, such a tidy label, such an easy mask. Maybe that is exactly what they want us to believe. Maybe that is the whole point. Have you ever tried to howl and found that the sound died before it left your throat, a whimper crushed flat inside the chest. That is where my story begins, in the hush between a breath and a scream. The doctors might call it sleep paralysis, a tidy phrase that tastes clinical and safe. But what visits me in the dark is neither clinical nor safe. It is a congregation of shadows that feeds on my silence and blooms whenever the moon slides behind clouds. Each month, almost on schedule, I drift off on my back, arms at my sides, the ceiling fan thudding its lazy circle above me. Nothing feels wrong at first. The sheet is cool across my legs, the city hangs beyond the window. My partner sleeps beside me, breathing slow and even. Then a pin drops somewhere in my spine. The body stiffens, the world tilts, and my room becomes a set that someone else controls. I can see everything, every lamp and photo frame, but the muscles around my eyes lock tight. So I stare forward like a corpse that forgot how to close its lids. That is when the dark figures arrive. They never step through the doorway or crawl from under the bed. They simply exist, thickening at the corners of my sight. Tall shapes with shoulders too narrow, heads that stretch upward into the gloom. I cannot turn toward them, yet I know they are there. Know they are watching, simmering with an old cruelty. Terror beats against my ribs like frantic wings. My only weapon is the low growl I push from my chest, a sound that starts as a distant rumble and climbs until it claws free as a full scream. My partner shakes me awake, heart hammering, asking what on earth just happened. I mutter it was only a nightmare and pretend the tremor in my voice is fading. One night the darkness changed its game. I woke inside the paralysis, but the room felt colder, as though the walls had been packed with ice. A single figure leaned over me, so close its outline eclipsed the ceiling fan. No face, only a void where skin and eyes should be. It lowered itself until the space where its mouth ought to be hovered beside my right ear. Then it whispered. The voice was soft, almost sweet, reciting a nursery rhyme in a language that tasted both familiar and wrong. The sound poured into one ear only, mono and intimate, a needle of syllables sliding straight to the skull. My left ear heard nothing but the hush of my own blood. The rhyme ended on a note that lingered like rot, and the figure drifted back into the corner where it dissolved. I woke screaming a broken song I did not recognize while my partner turned on every light in the apartment. Weeks later came the worst visitation. I was already tense before bed, stomach aching from an unease I could not place. At 3 a.m, the room sealed itself in darkness, heavier than usual, thick as tar. I was frozen, yet I felt hands lift the covers, felt air prick my skin. Figures surrounded the bed, 6, maybe 7, their edges blurring into one living shadow. All at once they pressed inward, and something sharp plunged into my abdomen. White heat erupted behind my eyes. Another stab, and another. Each strike lanced through flesh and bone until my vision whited out. I tried to roar, but managed only a hiss of air. The pain was so vivid that for a moment I believed I felt warm blood pooling beneath me. Then the figures stepped back, their work complete, and the room fell still. Morning light crept across the blinds. My body unlocked inch by inch, but the agony in my gut did not fade. Instead it sharpened, a fist of fire twisting below my ribs. My partner drove me to the hospital, tires squealing as dawn broke pink over empty streets. In the emergency room, I curled on the gurney while nurses spoke in urgent but practiced tones. Tests confirmed what the shadows had done. My appendix had burst, spreading poison inside me. Surgeons raced to cut the infection away before it could finish what the night visitors started. I spent days in recovery, dripping cold clarity into my veins. Doctors offered rational timelines, said the pain I felt during that episode was merely my body alerting me, said the stabbing dream was coincidence, a brain inventing drama to explain real discomfort. I smiled politely and agreed, because disagreement in a hospital sounds like madness. Yet at night, as antiseptic stung my nostrils and machines beeped like distant sonar, I remembered the rhythm of those phantom blades. I remembered how each strike landed exactly where the appendix lay dying. Back at home, I changed habits. I stopped sleeping on my back. I wedged pillows against my sides so rolling was impossible. Salt lines traced every windowsill. A night light glowed in the corner, casting soft amber into the room. Still, the shadows returned. I sensed them in the hush after midnight, skulking at the edge of vision, patient, amused. My growls grew hoarse, my throat raw. My partner began sleeping in a separate room, unable to rest through my nightly convulsions. Last month I bought a tiny recorder, placed it on the bedside table, and told myself evidence would set me free. At 3:14, the paralysis came. Figures formed a semicircle beyond my feet. The leader, broader than the rest, leaned forward. No whisper this time, only silence so dense it felt like gravity. In that silence I heard the faint click of the recorder stopping, battery drained though it had been full at dusk. I realized they wanted nothing captured, nothing proven, only fear to feed on. Now I sit here, writing near midnight again. The fan spins overhead, thud thud, a metronome counting down. My partner left yesterday to stay with family, unable to watch me struggle. The apartment feels wider, emptier, ready for occupation by things that prefer the quiet. I tell myself I will stay awake, but exhaustion thickens my eyelids. If they come tonight, will they finish what began with the appendix, or will they carve some new mystery into my flesh? I do not know, and that is the marrow of the terror. Not the wounds, not the whispers, but the knowledge that at any moment walls can fall away and another reality presses in. If you are listening to this story in the dark, maybe half drifting towards sleep, I ask one thing. When the figures gather at the edge of your vision, do not lie still. Fight for a sound, any sound, even a grunt, even a growl. Sometimes a single note, broken and trembling, is enough to rip the curtain back, enough to send the shadows scurrying until the next month, the next night, the next unlucky dreamer. And if you wake with pain that feels too real for nightmare, do not assume it was all in your head. Some wounds follow you out of the dark, sharp as steel, silent as a lullaby whispered in one ear alone.